Of an apartment nearly 10 stories off the ground early this morning. The fire took place in an ultra-luxurious high-rise on Manhattan's east side. By the time firefighters beat back the flames, they found an elderly couple dead. Now, as we wait for the victims to be identified, Eyewitness News reporter Naveen Dhaliwal has more on the investigation.
It happened here at the famous River House on East 52nd Street, where luxury is at its highest. And while firefighters were able to contain that fire to that one apartment, 2 people did not make it out alive.
But there is fire on the street side of the building.
Ferocious flames roared through the multi-million-dollar apartment on the 9th floor just after 5 this morning. When fire crews got here, they found blackout conditions.
We met with a heavy fire condition in apartment 9G. It was a very difficult operation. They operated in high heat, zero visibility.
And not only that, the apartment was large, 10 to 12 rooms with a complex layout. The search efforts found 2 people, both elderly, an 85-year-old woman with severe burns who fire crews say was pronounced dead at the scene. Her 89-year-old husband placed on a stretcher as firefighters performed CPR to no avail.
Unfortunately, we had 2 elderly residents in the apartment that succumbed to their injuries.
And nearly 12 hours later, smoke still pouring out of that apartment. Fire marshals have been here throughout the day, sifting through the apartment, which happens to be very large, and they're looking for a cause. In MIDTOWN East, I'm Naveen Dhaliwal, Channel 7.
A raging fire in an East Side luxury high-rise. An elderly couple dead. And tonight, firefighters say extreme weather conditions made efforts to save these victims even tougher. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tanya, watching the PIX11 News at 5. Those flames tore through the 10-room apartment in the early morning hours, and tonight investigators are searching for a cause. PIX11's Diana Rocco is live for us right now on the East Side with the very latest. Diana.
And Heidi, we have just learned that elderly couple has been identified as John and Mary Marrow. John was a former Navy veteran and also a senior partner at the Sullivan and Cromwell law firm. Now, this all started really early this morning, and as you mentioned, the extreme cold did present a challenge for firefighters who had to rush to the 9th floor of this building. You can see most of the 9th floor boarded tonight, while investigators still searching for a cause. The video is unbelievable. Flames are shooting from 2 windows on the 9th floor of an exclusive MIDTOWN East high-rise. 2 people are trapped inside a multi-million-dollar apartment that spans most of the 9th floor on the 27-story building. The flames could be seen from the FDR Drive early Saturday morning.
I'm in the floor above. It doesn't appear to be a duplex now. The smoke condition is dissipating, but there is fire on the street side of the building, the river side of the building.
After several minutes, firefighters emerged with an 89-year-old man in a stretcher administering medical aid as they rush him to a waiting ambulance. He later died at the hospital. An 85-year-old woman was found unconscious with severe burns and pronounced dead inside apartment 9G. Fire officials say the call came in around 5:15 Saturday morning. It took dozens of firefighters an hour to gain control. Into the afternoon, crews remained on the scene boarding windows. The fire started at the River House Co-op, an exclusive East Side community where an average condo sells for $11 million, once home to Uma Thurman and Henry Kissinger. 3 firefighters did suffer minor injuries, and the unit did have working smoke detectors, we are told by fire officials tonight. They're still trying to figure out how all of this started. We're live in MIDTOWN East. I'm Diana Rocco, PIX11 News.
Diana, thank you so much for that.
Vivian, it was an 85-year-old woman and her 89-year-old husband that died in this early morning blaze at the River House here, a luxury high-rise condo on East 52nd Street between 1st Avenue and the East River. It happened around just after 5 a.m. this morning on the 9th floor in apartment 9G. It was contained to that apartment, according to fire officials, in this 26-story building. As you can see in these videos, the flames were shooting out of the windows. It was was quite a shocking scene as firefighters arrived. They found the 85-year-old woman unconscious when they got there, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. The 89-year-old man, however, was brought to the hospital, and that's where he passed away. Now, according to firefighters, it was a fairly difficult blaze to deal with because when they arrived, it was already very little visibility in the apartment, very high heat, and lots of smoke. And they say it was a large apartment, about 10 to 12 rooms, so it took a significant amount of time to get that under control. They do say that there were smoke detectors and people in apartments above 9G were evacuated. People in the building say at the time it was fairly frightening.
I just heard sirens and looked out the window, and there was all these red flashing lights, and looked out the window and saw, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 trucks and probably 50 firefighters. So I was like, I should probably get out of here. So I came down and looked out onto the street, and you could smell the smoke, but I couldn't see the flames or anything. And now that I know the story, I'm just so sad for the people that didn't make it.
Now, the names of that elderly couple have not yet been released as firefighters continue their investigation into what caused the fire. I also do want to point out, Vivian, that 2 firefighters did suffer some minor injuries.
And Lindsay, I mean, every fire in the city is a serious deal, especially if it takes a life or lives. But this particular building is notable for the legends that exist on its resident list, right?
Absolutely. The River House here is a famed co-op building here on the East River with notable, well-known residents, including Henry Kissinger and Uma Thurman, that are known to live inside. There also is a river club, so many residents come that don't live here as well.
Okay, Lindsay Tuckman, we'll check in with you again. Thanks.
Una pareja de adultos mayores pierde la vida tras un feroz incendio en un edificio de apartamentos en Manhattan. Las autoridades informan que el siniestro se inició la mañana de este sábado en un apartamento del 9º piso del edificio de River House, ubicado en la calle 52 en el lado este de MIDTOWN. Una mujer de 85 años de edad murió en el lugar, mientras que su esposo de 89 fue trasladado al hospital, donde también falleció. La causa del incendio está aún bajo investigación. El edificio River House fue construido en 1931 y es conocido por haber sido el hogar del ex diplomático Henry Kissinger, el secretario de Comercio Wilbur Ross Jr. y la actriz Uma Thurman. El sospechoso de agredir y robar.
And new this morning, a deadly fire in an upscale building on Manhattan's east side, and we have just gotten word into our newsroom that a second person has lost their life.
Today, New York's Ken Buffa is joining us from the scene right now. Ken?
And we also learned that those people who died are in their 80s, and we have footage of the flames we want to share with you. Take a look at this video. Now, firefighters say the call came in around 5 this morning here to 435 East 52nd Street, the upscale high-rise on the east side known as the River House. Officials tell us the flames started in a 9th-floor apartment with 2 people inside, an 85-year-old woman and an 89-year-old man. Both of those now are dead, according to fire officials. Now, crews were able to contain the fire to the one apartment, but they say there was so much smoke that it was difficult for them to do their job.
I want to make sure everybody that came in together safe, and want to make sure we all get home safe. So, you know, in a heavy smoke condition like that, things can get confusing until you actually find the fire.
Now, firefighters do say they are investigating exactly how this fire began, but again, 2 lives were lost, an 85-year-old woman and an 89-year-old man. According to people who lived here, this is a high-rise that a lot of celebrities and prominent people lived in, including the former Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. That is the latest from here on the east side. Ken Buffa, News 4 New York.
Okay, Ken, thank you.
CBS 2 is back with your top stories this morning. 2 people are dead after a fire at an east side high-rise. It happened just after 5 o'clock this morning at the River House on East 52nd Street. Investigators say the fire was contained to one apartment on the 9th floor of the 26-story complex. An 85-year-old woman died on the scene. An 89-year-old man was pronounced dead at Cornell Medical Center. The cause of the fire is not known.
A tragic story. We've now learned the names of the husband and wife who died after a fire broke out inside a luxury high-rise building in Manhattan. 85-year-old Mary Miro was pronounced dead at the scene, and 89-year-old John Miro died at the hospital. The FDNY says the fire started just before 5:30 Saturday morning inside a 9th floor apartment at the River House on East 52nd Street, not far from the FDR Drive. Residents of the building say the whole thing was very scary.
I just heard sirens and looked out the window, and there was all these red flashing lights, and looked out the window and saw, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 trucks and probably 50 firefighters. So I was like, I should probably get out of here. So I came down and looked out onto the street, and you could smell the smoke, but I couldn't see the flames or anything. And now that I know the story, I'm just so sad for the people that didn't make it.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Now, the River House is home to some notable residents, including former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger and actress Uma Thurman.
2 elderly people are dead after a fire rips through a luxury high-rise building in Midtown East. Video shows intense flames, which fire officials say broke out around 5 o'clock this morning inside a 9th floor apartment on East 52nd Street. An 85-year-old woman died at the scene. Police say an 89-year-old man was taken to the hospital where he died.
They were met with a heavy fire condition in apartment 9G. It was a very difficult operation. They operated in high heat, 0 visibility, and it was a very large apartment with a complex layout.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
Thank you very much. We want to get to some breaking news early on this Saturday morning. 2 elderly people have died in a luxury high-rise fire on Manhattan's east side. Eyewitness News reporter Marcus Soul is joining us live from the scene with the very latest details. Marcus.
And Rob, those victims, the occupants of the apartment where that fire started early this morning. This was a raging fire. We can show you some video of the flames shooting out of that 9th floor apartment at the River House, 435 East 52nd Street here on the east side. The fire starting just after 5:15 this morning. Fire department responded. They found heavy flames shooting out of the apartment. An 85-year-old woman inside was declared dead at the scene. An 89-year-old man who was rushed to the hospital was later pronounced dead at Cornell Medical Center. Now, for firefighters, this was a difficult operation to put out this fire. A large apartment in a luxury 27-story high-rise, 10 to 12 rooms in this apartment alone, and it was a difficult fire for them to put out.
You have a fire on an upper floor in a building off the river, and the windows are already out, so you have plenty of wind and air adding fuel to the fire. So it's a difficult condition.
Again, the victims, 85, 89, have not yet been identified. 2 firefighters suffered minor injuries, and the cause of this fire remains under investigation. We're live on the east side. Marcus Solis, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Les saluda Alberto Rullán. Siempre es un honor que nos acompañen. Las noticias comienzan hoy en Manhattan. Volvió a ocurrir un incendio, en este caso devastador, cobró la vida de una pareja de ancianos. Y quiero que observen estas impresionantes imágenes del siniestro que se desató esta mañana en un lujoso edificio de la calle 52. Es muy cerca del FDR Drive. Vamos a hacer contacto en vivo con Cristina Navarrete. Ella se encuentra en la escena con los detalles. Una pregunta, Cristina. ¿También se reportaron heridos en este incendio?
Alberto, para responder esa pregunta, sí, de hecho las autoridades nos dicen que un bombero resultó con heridas menores, fue transportado al hospital. Por otra parte, tuvimos la oportunidad de hablar con vecinos que dicen vieron el drama detrás de esta tragedia. Llamas infernales desbordaban dentro de un apartamento del 9º piso de este edificio de viviendas de lujo. Una de las víctimas, una mujer, fue encontrada inconsciente con quemaduras severas.
Es lamentable, la peor manera de morir, realmente.
Un hombre de 89 años fue transportado a un hospital donde fue declarado muerto según lo indican autoridades.
Usted se siente triste cuando gente se muere.
We're just a wonderful couple. Eran una pareja increíble, dijo esta mujer que era su vecina. Las llamas se desataron a eso de las 5 de la mañana sobre el este de la calle 52 en el edificio 435.
Yo cuando llegaba a trabajar era que todos los firemen comenzaron a entrar.
El inmueble tiene el nombre de River House. Ha sido hogar de celebridades, entre ellos la actriz Uma Thurman y el ex secretario de Estado Henry Kissinger.
Ha pasado otros fuegos, pero no así de esta magnitud, tan grande. Sí, porque dice que un apartamento de 10 cuartos, según dicen.
It's a very difficult operation.
El subjefe de bomberos comentó que fue una operación contra llamas muy difícil por varios factores, entre ellos la poca visibilidad y altas temperaturas del fuego. Bueno, Alberto, hace poco las autoridades revelaron las identidades de las víctimas. Se trata de Mary y John Merrill. Ella tenía 85 años de edad. Por otra parte, en estos momentos aún no se sabe la causa del por qué se originó este fuego. Todo eso continúa bajo investigación. Es todo lo que tengo desde Manhattan. Yo soy Cristina Navarrete. Alberto, regreso contigo al estudio con más noticias.
Impresionantes las imágenes y horrible el desenlace, Cristina. Muchas gracias. Amigos, vamos a cambiar de tema.